Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Marketing Talks with Ivan. I'm your host, Ivan, and welcome back. Today, we have a very exciting guest and a very special friend of mine, Rachele. Rachele, would you like to
Hi.
say some words to the audience?
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited for today.
I'm very excited as well. And today's episode is a very fascinating one because it's not just about social media, it's about one single career decision that can change your entire life. I'm sitting down with someone whose journey started from the law school of Milan, and somehow she took her way through Paris, London, and Madrid. And finally, she's working at one of the most prestigious brands out there. She's now working on social media and digital influence and working on global campaigns, which everybody loves, and collaborating with creators. To be honest, that was always one of my dreams to collaborate with different kinds of people around the world and shaping how luxury brands communicate online. Raquel, thank you so much for being on this podcast today. How do you feel? I want that genuine, natural reaction. Are you
Thank
excited?
you. I'm super excited. I cannot wait to start.
So, Raquel, let's go back in time. Let's go from the Big Bang Theory. So, let's start from the very beginning. Since you studied law, something completely different from what are you doing right now? What was your going through your mind when you decided to take such a decision that you wanted to change your field completely?
At the time, while I was studying law, I realized that I was doing very well academically, but I didn't feel fulfilled. Law taught me structure, discipline, how to think critically, but I was missing that creative side that I always loved while I was studying at school. It was not an easy decision, but like at my second year of law school, I decided that I needed a change for my life. It felt super risky, but I had this strong feeling within me that I needed to make that step and change because I would have always wondered, what if? So I decided to quit law school and start again university from the first year. That was a lot, also because I didn't have a clear vision for myself at the time. I know that I didn't want to go throughout my law school studies, but it still was like super indecisive of what was going next for me. Then I decided to jump into business economics. Again, you might say not very creative, I know, but I felt like it was more of a bridge between the rational thinking that I had and a real world impact. Business school like helped me understand how people make decisions, how markets work, and how value is created. I felt it was more hands-on. And throughout my years at my new university, I had the chance to have marketing courses, some communication courses, and even some social media ones that really made that spark in me grow even more. And I decided that yes, that was the right path for me. And I was ready for the next step.
Understood. And if you pick something from the law degree and from the economics one as well, what are those two kind of skills that maybe you could pick from both of this degree that has prepared you in such a way to get ready for what is the next step coming for you in terms of marketing?
I feel like one of the biggest thing that both these degrees taught me was to have a strategic thinking. I believe that sometimes people have this misconception about marketing and communication that it's like visuals, nice campaign, pictures, aesthetic. No, it comes from a strategic thinking. You have to have a strategy, then to put out a beautiful picture of an image. So that really taught me how to think critically of things, to be structured and prepared.
And also, it's very interesting that you have to collect different kinds of small information in order to reach that final task as well, right?
Yeah, of course. Working now in social media, I feel like it's very important also to have a vision on analytics and numbers as well. Especially like numbers, analytics are important like to see how you're doing and how you're handling stuff. So this also was what I was studying during my business days, like how to learn through numbers as well.
Numbers gives you the reality of the situation. Are you going the right direction, or maybe you should just stop whatever you're doing and try a different approach? It's more of a tactical side, I would say.
Yeah, that is completely true. But another part to mention, in my opinion, that numbers are not the only thing that you should take into consideration. Of course, it's a blend of things. You start from numbers, but then you evolve into something else. Of course, numbers help you shape strategically your vision, but there are like so many different inputs that you have to take into consideration. And of course, especially working in social media, you people see like in our world that numbers and KPIs change constantly. So you have to adapt very fast to what is going on into the online world.
Actually, that's a very nice point that you mentioned, adaptability, because even within agency environments and all of this, that's very important. And going to my next question is, you mentioned that during the pandemic, did it shape your interest in the way you viewed social media and so on?
Of course, uh, during the pandemic, as I think most of the people in the world, we were chronically online. At the time that the pandemic happened, I was in my last year of bachelor. I was writing my thesis, but apart from that, I had so much time for myself that I spent online on social media. Uh, in Italy at the time, TikTok was booming, which is now one of the biggest social media platforms that we have. And you could totally see how things were shaping and changing into the social media world. We were not just users, but we could be creators. And that is one of the most important parts for me, the empowerment also that social media gives to people. You can have a voice and you can start from scratch and build your own community. So for me, it was super interesting to understand, and I realized how social media wasn't just content, but it was culture, it was community building, and it had a strategy as well that I felt it was super interesting. I wanted to be part of that world as well.
I'm glad to hear that. During that time, during the pandemic, what was the trend that it started shaping social media in a very different manner as compared to today?
I would say that it was a natural change. Starting from the pandemic, as I said, people were gathered together to join into online community. Now communities are super important, especially when we speak about social medias and how people see themselves. Niches were created. There were like so many different topics going on TikTok, especially that was booming. People started to feel even more empowered. Before we had influencers, which it's another term. Creators are people that create their own content. Before, people were like more staged in the sense that they produce their content in a certain way. I feel like throughout the pandemic, we can see this change of how also content is shaped and portrayed. Everything feels a bit more natural and not so much staged on. And everyone understood that could be someone on the internet. You just have to have your niche, your own tone of voice, and this social media gives you a big stage.
So, Raquel, I understand that people on social media at the time felt empowered and they felt like this platform like was a new stage for them. Did you take advantage of the same opportunity as well at the time?
Yes, I would say so. As I said, I was chronically online at the moment, and I thought that was the right time for me to do something with my creativity. I was experimenting a lot with graphic design. I love to create collages of pictures made with Photoshop, and I created a second profile where I posted all my works, artworks, let's say. Also, at the time, many brands were having some sort of competition to involve their community more, to join them on their journeys. And I decided, why not? I wanted to take part of this as well. So I participated in some of these contests. Like they were like create your own picture, your own version of the brand. Like, what could be the next step for our brand in terms of, like, I don't know, aesthetic. And I created some sort of portfolio for these brands. And they worked. They worked. People started texting me that they love my work, and especially an agency reached out to me asking if I was looking for a graphic design work. I was not a graphic designer, of course. I was just like trying to do things on Photoshop, but I said yes. I would say it was a bold move from myself to say something that I was not, but I said I have nothing to lose. So yeah, might just go on and say that I'm a graphic designer. They interviewed me, and of course, it came out that I was not a graphic designer, but luckily they were looking for a social media person to join their team. And they offered me a job. So during the pandemic, as I was writing my final thesis for my bachelor degree, I got a job, which was insane.
How things just change the course. Like it's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, I love that. It felt surreal. Everyone was stopping at the moment. It was not a nice time for everyone, but I felt extremely lucky and empowered. That gave me such a boost of confidence that I couldn't believe that I got my first job while everyone was at home and I could do something that I was like liking so much. I really felt like social media had like some sort of impact in my destiny and my career path. It was always there. It was the start of everything. And I felt very lucky, yes.
And also the main thing is before you finished your degree, you already landed your first job. Am I right?
Yes, yes, that's why. Yeah. I started, first of all, I was very clear with the agency and I said, I'm graduating right now from my bachelor degree. I'm writing my thesis. Everything is online. We're working remotely. So I don't know, should we start with a part-time? Because at the time I couldn't go to the office. Of course, I couldn't meet the team. It was very hard to start a new job online like that. So they agreed to start part-time. And then I graduated after 2 months. It was in June. And already things were getting better in Italy. We could go out of our homes. And so I started then to go full time.
And what was your day to day look like in an agency?
Working in an agency, I would say, and you can confirm, it's super like a very fast-paced environment. At the time, I was working with many different clients. I was an like social media manager for 7 different brands at the time. Of course, it was a lot, but it gave me the chance to work with brands from all different fields, from fashion to food to hotellerie to more luxury maison. It was a very important experience for me because it gave me like the tools, as I was saying before, to work on different aspects of the job, from content planning to copywriting, community managing, and reporting. The agency environment really like exposed me to multiple industry and brand voices and accelerated a lot my learning. Really grateful for that. Also, like especially one thing that the agency teaches you is how to work under pressure on very tight deadlines. And that really, in my opinion, like taught me structure, like how to prioritize things and how to work on projects.
So, what did the experience teach you about the client agency world?
I would say that it taught me the importance, as I said before, of structure, communication with team and all the different teams, not just within the agency, but between the agency and the brand. It taught me adaptability. You constantly shift between brands and deadlines while you have to maintain a very high quality level. It also showed me how to um, translate clients' needs into clear strategies and not just creative ideas. So we go back to the thing that to be creative, you also have to be strategic. And that was very crucial for my.
So, Raquel, after Milan, you went on to study at ESCP Business School. That's where we both first met, also. Then you moved to London and then Paris. That's quite a global journey. So, what made you keep on exploring at the point?
Yeah, I feel like a pop star. No, I'm joking. Basically, I decided that I wanted to move because I didn't want to stay in Milan any longer. I always had this thing within me that I needed to go abroad. Um, of course, if you look at my personal journey, it's not the regular career path that you see on LinkedIn, for example, because I left my full-time job to go again to university. But I felt it was the right thing for me. I really wanted to have my master's degree in marketing, and I decided to move to Madrid and pursue it at ESCP Business School because it was like the university that gave me the chance to move between their European campuses. So I already knew that from Madrid I would have moved to London to finish the master. And the funny thing is that while I was living in Madrid, I was interviewing for a job that opened in July. And at that point, I got my job in Paris. So I knew that after Madrid, after London, then I would have moved to Paris, which was super exciting. I was looking for that. The idea of moving around has always like excited me. Changing so many environments in such a short period of time, because it was over the span of 2 years, helped me to grow more and faster. Each move forced me to adapt culturally, professionally, and personally, give me a broader perspective on myself and on communication itself. And like it made me meet so many different people that I loved and gave me so many different opportunities. And it helped me to shape and build my international mindset for sure.
So, Raquel, now you moved over to Paris. What was it after moving to Paris? What was the next step for you after that?
I moved to Paris because at the time I got a job at a beauty company and I was working in consumer marketing. So that was slightly different for what I used to do at the agency. And it was another big step for me because going through an agency, then I was working as a corporate girl. It was like having my first corporate job, which was very exciting, but also a bit different. It was very structured in a different way than from the agency, and it was more consumer centric. Working as a part of the team of consumer marketing taught me how to have a broader 360 view on things. Everything started from deep consumer insights and was translated into the communication that was like revolving around, for example, the launch of a product. It required balancing the brand heritage with fast moving strategies, especially during these launches, to feel attractive to consumers. It was very, very nice. And I had the chance to meet different departments that I never worked with, especially working in a beauty company. You have product marketing, you have the education team, which was super interesting, that teaches you and teaches the part of the teams that work especially in the stores how to uh, storytell the products to the consumers, which I thought it was very nice and another inspiring part of the job.
I know you have built different kinds of strategies for various kinds of platforms like TikTok or maybe even different markets as well. What was the biggest learning for you from that kind of experience?
While I was working with the team, one of the biggest part was to craft a TikTok strategy, especially in the beauty industry. Social media plays a pivotal role. People discover new brands, look for reviews of product on social media. So it was very important to have a strong presence there. Of course, one global strategy never fits everyone, and this is what I've learned. You need a strong central vision, but you need to be flexible to adapt also on local markets. Clear guidelines are and alignments within the different teams are essentials to scale globally, but you have to remain culturally relevant. And that is what I've learned the most. And again, we come back to adaptability and strategy, which I think are the two main things to keep in mind when you work in marketing and communication.
And now let's get into the main exciting topic. How do you build a social media strategy? I know, Rakele, you have worked across various different kinds of industries. How do you even begin building such a strategy for a brand?
Starts from the brand's DNA. You have to deeply understand what you stand for, what's your purpose, your values, your personality, and your competitive landscape. Once you have your values clear, then you start from there and you define your clear business and communication objectives, ensuring that they are aligned, of course, overall with your brand, your growth goals, where you want to go. Once you have the foundations, which are like the most important steps to now start building, you need to decide where you want to position your brand and what's your tone of voice, how the brand should be perceived, what makes it distinctive, and how you should speak across the touch points. And this defines also like your audience and the platforms where you want to be at. Once you know how you want to speak, then you decide you already have the clear idea of what's your audience. Then you know what's your audience, and then you know where your audience is on, which platform works best for you. And then you set your KPIs. What does your success look like? Whether it's awareness, consideration, or conversation, you want to measure that over time to understand where you're going. And from that, you can start building your community.
Understood. That was a really nice take to the question, by the way.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting. So, Rakele, I know when you're building this kind of strategies and all, you're involved with different departments. How do you actually align with them?
To align with other brands is so important, especially when you work together with, within teams as a team of a big brand. You align through regular alignments meeting. You have to be very clear. You have to have a planning and clear timelines to ensure everyone is aware of what's going on. I do believe that as my job, like social media, is a connector across the organization, and it's like the last step because everybody works together to then have something that goes online. So when we work, for example, for launches of products, we align with so many different teams: go-to-market, product team, content team, and copywriting. We work all together to then have the strategy that we planned across time together.
So, Rakele, now you work in digital influence right now. So that means collaborating with different kinds of creators and so on. So, how do you decide who's the right kind of fit for a luxury brand?
In my opinion, it goes beyond follower counts. You have to work with someone that aligns with your values, with your aesthetic, with your audience. And credibility is also one of the things that matters the most. Luxury relies on trust and aspirations, and the collaboration must feel natural. I feel like what makes a collaboration authentic in this case, especially in the luxury world, but in every field in general, is that authenticity comes from uh, a creator that would genuinely speak about your brand, even without a contract. It has to feel organic.
What makes a collaboration authentic in your eyes?
As I said, it needs to feel genuine. It needs to be aligned with the brand's values. You go for someone, when I decided who to work with, we, especially in a high luxury brand, we decide based on people that could be a consumer as well of the brand. And once you work with someone that is excited to work with your brand, the most important thing is to give them their creative freedom. I feel like a collaboration shouldn't shut down a creative's creativity. Creative freedom is super important. of course, within a clear brand guidelines, but it makes you have a successful collaboration when the content feels real and not forced.
Understood. And how do you feel like in terms of influencer marketing different in a luxury industry versus other industries out there?
I feel like on luxury, you should focus less on volume and more on storytelling, images, and long-term brand equity. Because for luxury, um you build interest and desire over time. So it wouldn't be just one shot collaboration with a creator or an influencer, but it should be a story that you tell over time with them.
So, Rakele, for whomever is watching this podcast, what advice would you give to young, aspiring marketers out there, just like you?
I would say you have to be hands-on and curious, and you have to build your fundamentals instead of chasing trends. Trends are super important and super fun, but you have to have a full picture of things. If you want to work in social media, especially, you have to be a bit tech savvy and I would say chronically online. You should love scrolling. You should love what's going on out there from pop culture to like relevant tech moments. You should be there in the moment with your phone. And of course, you should be a user. You should be on platforms. You should have a knowledge on how things are working on different social medias because each platform has its own kind of audience and everything works different and you should know how to adapt within these differences.
So, Rakele, how can someone stand out when applying for roles in the fashion or luxury industry?
I would say that this adapts to every kind of role, but you have to show how interested you are in that particular brand. You have to learn, you have to know, you have to make people see and understand that you made your homework. Show deep brand understanding. Strategic thinking is the most important thing. And of one thing that people may tend to forget is that, of course, hard skills are super important. You did your Excel courses, you know how to use PowerPoint, but soft skills are another big part of like working in brands or in general, because you're gonna work for a team, you're gonna work with other people. So show how your soft skills can make you stand out from the group as well.
So, Rakele, in 2026, what are your professional and personal goals? What do you look forward to this year?
I would say that I'm very happy right now in the position that I'm in, and I cannot wait to grow even more. I would say that I'm very lucky to work with the people that I work with. Especially, I'm learning a lot from my boss. And I think that what's next for me, I really hope big things and nice things. I want to be very positive about my future, but I think that I really hope to grow even more professionally and personally, focusing on a nice balance between work and my well-being, which is another very important thing. So I hope that big things are next for me.
Understood. That was a really nice take to the question. And I'm really grateful for having you on this podcast. To be honest, the reason why I started this podcast is to have people exactly like you to actually tell your stories. And your story was really inspiring for me.
I think it's very interesting that you're interviewing like different people that have their own experiences, and I think that people can feel empowered and inspired by other people's journeys. And I think it's one of the best things about this podcast.
And your journey is something that really stood out because until you told me a story initially, I was like, wow, Raquel needs to be on this podcast. Regardless of what, she has to be on this podcast, and I will make that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Your journey has spanned over so many different paths. And to be honest, that's very fascinating for me. I love telling your story. All the viewers out there will be fascinated hearing the story as well.
Thank you so much. I really hope that my story in its little might inspire someone. I've always loved listening to podcasts, especially podcasts about like inspiring people. People that are now CEOs of companies are the ones that inspire me the most on my day-to-day basis because I feel like they empower me and they give me ideas on how to grow. And I'm really glad to be on your podcast because I feel like it's a very nice take on how people are like evolving throughout their careers and their professional journeys. We met at university and now we have our jobs, we're growing, we're doing different stuff. You have your own podcast, which is insane. And uh, yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you so much for this interview. It was very nice.
So basically, you don't need to start in marketing to actually succeed. To be honest, you need to believe in yourself from the very beginning. It's about you and your journey. You have control of your journey, the decisions you make. This is what I've realized after interviewing Raquel is you have control of your own decisions because each decision is going to have a really impactful way how you see the way forward. So take control of your decisions and don't allow anyone to influence your decision making as well. It's good to get inputs, but end of the day, don't regret that I did not take this decision previously and so on. Take control of the things going forward and looking forward to the next podcast. Thank you so much, Raquel, for being on this podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice speaking with you. I had a great time.
Me too, as well. And to all the viewers out there watching this podcast, we'll see you in the next one and see you next time.
Thank you so much. Ciao.